I'm going to talk about some work we did probably 1 year or 2 years ago. It's basically visual analysis of massive web session data. So before that, do a little self-introduction. I'm in the behavior product experience team at eBay. So previously, I was a research scientist at eBay Research Labs, and I spent almost like 5 years there, and I got my PhD in InfoVis from UC Davis, and some other things. I have a visualization blog, but it's in Chinese, and recently, late last year, we published a data visualization book. It's like first book, data visualization book written in Chinese. So, and so this today I want to talk about is this is work I did when I was still at the research lab. So we have a collaboration with the UC Davis visualization team, and it's a paper we published at the LDEF in 2012. And yeah, the title is Visual Analysis of Massive Web Session Data. So okay, so probably we can skip this because this is a slide I used at the academic conference. Not many people are not familiar with eBay, so I guess it's not needed when I'm in the valley. So okay, so let's jump to the web session data. So so web session data basically is recording all the user activities on the site, right? So from when user come to eBay site and when they close browser or leave eBay, so it's called a user session. And in each session, it's a sequence of events. Basically, each event is either mapped to a page they request or a click they did, right? So then so in eBay there are a lot of we use this web session data very heavily to understand the user behavior, to understand how user interact with sites, to understand are there any friction points for users when they use the site to do something, right? So so then in this process, the visual analytics of visualization is very, very useful to us because when we try to understand, like for example, in this example I draw here is the checkout process. So on eBay there are many of this kind of we call it key flows. Basically, it's a process we define, or like a product we define for user to complete a certain task, right? Checkout is one of them. So you go to checkout, you put things in your shopping cart, then you pay for them, and you probably need to log into PayPal, or input your credit card. So these are there are several steps in this process, right? So we want to make sure users don't have any friction points in the process. They enter this and they finish this very smoothly, right? So then, so we really need to look at user behavior in those key flows and to understand how it works for them. So and the visual analytics is really useful here because the traditional way to do this is we have a lot of BI analysts, and they run statistical analysis or sometimes run some models to see to check, right? But it's all hypothesis driven, right? Sometimes they have hypotheses. They say, okay, I think this is the friction point for user. Then they run statistical analysis to test if the hypothesis is right? But what if we launch some new product, totally new key flows? So no one has any clue how it's gonna work, or no one have any hypothesis. In this time, at this point, in this scenario, the visualization is very important, right? So it basically presents the data to you, give you an overview of the data. Then it basically enables exploration and discovery, right? So it's really, you don't need to have any a hypothesis. You can just look at data and derive hypothesis from there and iteratively explore the data. And so this is very important. So but then when we try to do visualization for this web session data, we have it's not easy. So the challenges we have once is the data is very large scale. Every day there are hundreds of millions sessions, means hundreds of millions visits, and we have the data in Hadoop. It's about 2 terabytes every day, and it's already compressed binary. So I mean, we cannot load it into browser, or we cannot load it into even a single program to try to try to visualize and interact with the data. It's just too much. Also, another thing is like this data is kind of complex, right? So it's not like structured data. It's kind of semi-structured. All the weblog, if you deal with weblogs before, like those are kind of semi-structured, right? So each of the events, they have their own attributes. Also, sometimes the features we're looking at like, for example, elapsed time on each page. So these are the features that's very complex. So it's very hard to deal with. So when we start this project, what we did is we say, okay, we don't know how we're going to deal with, how we're going to solve this, but let's sit with the analysts, see how they do this kind of analysis from day to day, right? So then the project we worked on is we try to improve the success rate of those key flows. Success rate basically means like what's the percentage of users coming into this flow, they finally succeed. They finally finish all the steps in the key flow, right? For example, registration, finally they register account on eBay, or checkout, finally they pay the money, right? So this is a goal. Then we sit down with the analysts, look at them look at how they do this, right? I mean, without help of visualization. Then we think about how visualization can help them, right? So then we find out in the process is, so first they try to do is they try to study the key things they try to study is they try to find correlations, right? They try to find correlations between user behavior patterns in those key flows and the success rate, right? Then they look at the different factors that kind of reflect user behavior patterns. And for example, they're looking at the event sequence. So for example, when users go to registration, what did they do first, right? They should input the name first, they input their address first, or they input their phone numbers first, right? So then they're also looking at the elapsed time, right? How much time you spend on each of the step, right? Maybe some step is taking too long because some step is just too hard, right? Then for each of the steps, they look at inbound and outbound. They look at where do user come from, where do user go? Because some of the key flows, user can even circle around inside, right? They can go back and forth, right? It's just not a straight flow, right? Then they look at many other things, and they try to find a correlation between success rates, right? And more important is the process they do it. The way they do it is very iterative, right? They say they start, of course, they again start from a hypothesis, then they run a query to the data and get results back, and the query specifically try to capture those sessions they think like can prove their point, right? They look at those data and they say, okay, it is right, my hypothesis is right. Then they have some new findings. They run another query to the either a data warehouse or either like Hive or like files on HDFS, and they get results back and they do another run, right? So it's very iterative. So then we say, okay, how we can make it more smooth for them, right? How we can make the analysis more interactive, right? So this is what we did. So basically, we designed a like two-tier visualization system. So the first tier is basically doing filtering, data filtering on Hadoop. So this is the heavy lifting part, right? So this is we try to cut down the data size into much smaller size instead of 2 terabytes into much smaller size. Then in the next step, we load all this smaller data, the data they really want and they want to look at into memory, right? So then they can have interactive visualization as second tier, right? So this is actually very similar to the process they're doing, right? So they run a like offline query in batch mode and got the data back, and they put their data in Excel and try to like pivot table or whatever, right? So we're trying to simulate that, right? So we say, okay, we'll make it like totally automatic for you. We'll like you do something, and we based on the criteria you set, we go fetch the data from Hadoop in batch mode, in offline mode, right? Then when the data is loaded, we load it into memory, and we control the size, make sure the memory can handle this, and all the interactions can be interactive, right? So then this is also iterative, right? So they got the data and they play with the data, and they have some findings. They might change the condition and then go back and hit the Hadoop and get more data, right? So this is a kind of like a very high level architecture of the system. So
sorry, do you apply the data filtering on the live logs, or you archive and then apply to that?
So it's archived log.
Archive, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But what happens during that time when you're doing the filtering and visualization? Do you not lose that live data?
So, so for this system is consuming like 1 day old data, so it's archived. So the data is actually processed at the end of the day. So next day people are doing analysis, right?
Because now and then we still have the fraud happens on eBay or PayPal sites. It still happens, right? We can't detect everything. Sometimes they go through. Also, the users can do whatever.
Yeah. So this is kind of different. I think this is there are different types of applications, right? So this is mainly for, like, I launch the product, I do offline analysis. I try to see, like, how to optimize the product. This is not like on-the-fly optimization, right? So there are some applications they need on-the-fly. You feed the data back into the live system and on-the-fly customize or personalize the experience for users. So this is not for that. This is mainly for analysts to do offline analysis. Yeah.
Not for fraud detection.
No, not. So this is like analysts do offline analysis. They get insights, and those insights will impact the product design in next iteration. Right. So it's not like a really live feed into the system, but that's something we are working on now. So, okay. So yeah. So this is I'm just going to the details of like. I'm going to details of like how at each stage what kind of data processing happens, right? So this is at filtering stage. So it's just a straight MapReduce. We look at the raw logs. We get the key value pairs. We basically, in this case, we are very interested in two things, right? The factors we're looking at for user behavior is, one thing is like in which sequence they do those steps. Another thing is how much time they spend on each of the steps. So that's why we get like A, B, C is a different types of steps. And the 5, 10, 1 is kind of the elapsed time on that step, right? So we capture this kind of thing. We kind of doing MapReduce and aggregate, right? So this is the filtering part. This helps us cut down the data. So basically, analysts need to give some initial. We allow them to give some initial conditions. They say, okay, I only want to look at a particular flow, right? I only want to look at these events, all these events. I only want to look at them, right? So then we run the filtering. So. Then okay, so this is the next step is the interactive visualization part. So in the memory, all these this sequence action, we call it action sequence, are grouped and stored in a tree-like structure, right? So we can quickly search for, we can quickly do those pattern search, right? So we can easily find, say, we want to find all the sequences that from A, B, C, or like BACs, and we can easily find like I want to find all the sequence starts with A, and they spend how much time on it, right? So then, so this can support a very interactive query, and this is how we visualize it. Basically, we use different color blocks to it represents different steps, and the height of the block means how many sessions or how many people follow this pattern. And the width of the length of the block indicates how much time they spend, right? Then we basically bucket the elapsed time. We group the elapsed time into buckets, so that's why you can see kind of step function kind of thing. So this is one group. They spend like probably 5 seconds on this, and the next step is this green one is B, and next step is C, right? So this group is slightly different. They have the same first 2 steps, but next step is different, right? So this is how we visualize them. And so at different tier, right? So at the first tier, we have like 2 terabytes data on Hadoop, right? So then there are hundreds of million sessions, and when you do the filtering, for example, in checkout, the data suddenly cut down to like 50 megabytes. Also in raw data, it's not only like a number of sessions, but also in raw data, there are a lot of informations, a lot of other information for each event, right? It has like hundreds of different attributes we log into those events for some other analysis, right? But maybe for this analysis, they only want to look at one attribute. They don't need others. So those things are filtered out. So that's why the data suddenly reduced to so small. And then in the tree, we do some compression, all these things. It's even more smaller, right? So on the visualization side, by changing the bucket size, when we group the elapsed time, we group into discrete bucket, right? So the size can be even smaller. Then even we can load all the structured data into the browser for interactive query, right? So So then, okay, so this is the interface, and so basically, if you look at this, this has a main view. It's basically presenting the visualization I just introduced. You can see, probably I should operate here. So, okay, sorry, camera. So, okay, so this is all this means seconds, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 90 seconds, right? So we show this pattern. You can see this is like one type. The first step, you always go to this, and they spend like various time on this one, right? So this shows give the overview of like, shows the actual user behavior, and we have some other panels around it to help you interact or provide more information. This is kind of the detailed information. It shows like what's the page, what's the step, and how much time you spend on this, average, median, and the min, max. And also shows like this is important. It says if you're going to go through this step, what's the success rate for them, right? How, in what percentage they will complete the key flow, the flow, right? So then we also, like I mentioned, analysts really care about where do they come from and where do they go, right? So it's kind of breakdown of where do they, the previous page and the next page. All right, so this legend indicates different colors. Also, sometimes we care the detailed distribution of the elapsed time on this particular page, right? So yeah, so this is user interface, and let me walk through some use case how this is used and what kind of insights is derived. One thing I want to point out, this is like this is not real data. So this is a sample, random sample, not random. It's not reflecting any stock price on eBay. Okay, so it's fake data. So, but just to prove the point. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so so this is a checkout. So in eBay, and so this is how analysts they're actually using it. Is so they saw this visualization, right? So they can first thing. Okay, let me come back to this. The first kind of interaction or filtering they can do is they can select this payment review. So you can select one step, look at the details of this step, and look at the time distribution, right? You can see how many, like what's the time distribution. Then they can also actually click on the visualization to select this particular group, right? This particular group means this is a payment review, and they spend this much time on this step, right? So when they select this, and the detail panel will reflect the statistics of this selected group. So for these people, this is a success rate for them, right? Then we select this group. This group is they spend a little longer time on this step. The success rate is from like 95 drop to 85 drop to 80. And if they spend more time, like more than 30 seconds, the success rate is even lower, right? So basically, this kind of proves the intuition we always have, right? So we want to make the checkout very fast, right? User can just quick in and quick out. It's like so that's why probably Amazon have those one-click checkout, right? Don't give you any time to sync. Don't give you any time to confirm. To review your payment, don't review, right?
I think just a comment on this. I think the best practice, because there's a visualization, so just a comment, like I think the best practices to follow in a visualization, like the pie charts and the use of color. I think
okay.
You can
yes.
look into that.
Okay, so.
Do you have like distinguish between different devices for the user?
For which?
If they are using different device, if they are using.
Oh, for this we don't. We didn't look at different devices. This is only for web. So you're can you say again? Sorry.
So my comments are around
the color pick
visualization.
Oh, okay.
Practices.
Okay.
Use of pie charts and use of color. So
okay.
Usually the pie charts are not good visualization because, unless the distribution is very less. But if it goes beyond 3 or 4,
okay.
then I don't even know what
okay.
the distribution is like. I don't even understand how it's distributed there on the pie chart.
On the pie charts, okay.
Yeah, I don't even know what they are.
Oh, okay. So because this is not interactive, so in a real system, when you move over each wedge in a pie chart, it actually pop up the detailed information.
Yeah, I know the tooltip can show you
the
details.
Yes.
But the pie chart itself, like when I look at it without even interacting, I should get the story right away without actually able to.
So I actually have like opinion on this. I like people. How do I say? A lot of people like criticize those like classic visualization like pie charts, right?
Especially 3D pie charts.
Yeah, 3D is bad. So I only have shade. I don't have 3D. Okay. I don't have 3D. 3D is bad for sure. So, but then think about this, right? So I think those pie charts, I think they are pretty. So one thing is those pie charts, those traditional ones, so everyone understand, right? Everyone start to see them in elementary math class, right? When you are in elementary school, right? So then there are some new visualization forms. That's like, for example, this one, right? This one I'm introduced here, right? So in our experience, people actually take time to learn this, right?
The old Excel users still like pie charts.
Yeah. So I mean, also like I don't quite understand what you say, because like if you try to show the distribution of proportion, pie charts is good, right? So if there's 3 or 4, like might be good, 10 might be bad, but I don't know. I mean, for like if you have 10 things, you show bar charts. I don't know. For bar charts, you need to read those numbers, right? Otherwise, it's also like, yeah.
I think it would have been good if just for you commented the colors, if the failure was actually in red and the success in green.
Oh, okay.
Immediately like.
Okay. Yeah.
It's all about telling the story.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Okay.
Red and green are the most culturally bound colors, and colorblind people can't
It's
discern them.
Christmas.
Okay. So this is one type of interaction user can do. It's like basically highlighting each group and look at the statistics of this group, right? So there's another thing is like, so by default, all these sessions are sorted by the first event, right? Then it's a greedy sort, a greedy grouping, right? So first event, second event, third event, right? So then it's basically meaning this. If you think about like the query or the analysis you're doing is say, okay, I want to condition on the time you spend on this particular event and group them, right? But sometimes the first event is not the most important event, right? Sometimes the second event is very important. So maybe you don't want to do the grouping condition on the time they spend on the second event. So that's kind of the second interaction we're providing this visualization is allow you to align, right? They can pick each event, any event they want, and say, I want to align according to this event. That's what. So the first one, the one on the right is on the left on the side is aligned by the default alignment. The second one is aligned by the second event. It definitely show very different patterns, right? So because the grouping has changed. So also we allow we allow user to do zooming. So not only like zooming at graphics level means pixel level zooming, but also like semantic zooming. Basically, they can change the bucket size. And so the grouping is different. And you can see like the first one like actually has the bucket size is much smaller. It actually show much more details than the second one. So these are the different interactions we support, right? Okay, so let me see how much time I have. Okay, almost time. So so this is similar. This is just another use case we look at. So let me skip this and. Yeah, so basically, to summarize, so basically, this system, we have 2 major points. Actually, it's one major contribution here is like, the things we learned from building this is when we deal with huge data, right? So sometimes the tiered system can work, right? So we design a system with multiple tiers. So each tier do different amounts of data processing, and each tier have different response time, right? So, and user can totally accept like they did some filtering and they know, okay, this will take like probably 5 minutes. I'll wait or I'll get notification by email and click a link, go back again. And some of the interactions they do expect to be interactive. So I think tiered system will work, and so another thing is, yes, and the second part is the same. So as we're moving up the tiers, data is less, and computation cost is also less, and it's become more interactive. So that's it. Yeah. So I'm out of time. So any questions? No. Okay.
So what kind of optimizations have you done to improve the visualization performance? Like, you are dealing with petabytes of data every day. So what are the optimizations you have done to get that visualization faster?
Oh, okay.
Because they're loading in a browser, so obviously.
Yeah, so basically I probably didn't make it clear. So basically some of the filtering is done at cluster level, right? So at the beginning the system I cannot demo because the system is like already decommissioned. So but firstly the system works is firstly typing, they select all the pages, all the key flows they are interested, right? And they can add conditions like where are you from or what type of user they are looking at. So this will be an offline query. This will hit the Hadoop cluster and wait for like 5 minutes or 10 minutes, even longer, to come back, right? Then they will get a notification. They will click the link, go to the web page, and the rest is interactive, right?
So do you load the data back into a warehouse to do the analytics, or you go on top of Hive within Hadoop?
So the data sits in Hadoop. So it's actually, we're not using Hive. We have I didn't mention, so we have a system, in-house build system. It's on top of MapReduce. It understands the eBay's particular web session data format, and it helps us to do all this like session level analysis.
So you do not have to run any MapReduce code in the background?
No, it's the MapReduce code. So we build a software layer on top of MapReduce. So we do that.
MapReduce is slow, right?
Yeah, so that's the batch mode, right? So when we load the smaller data will be in memory, right? So
that's outside Hadoop system?
it's outside. That's just a typical web application.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah. Sorry.
Is it a Python-based web application or
This is a standard Java Tomcat.
Java?
Yeah. So some of the data sits on the Tomcat. Some of even smaller data sits in the JavaScript memory. So this. Oh, sorry. This when we build this, it's still Flex. At the time, Flex is still the best one. So. So you can see those charts. It's typical Flex charts. So it has shade and it has everything.
So you mentioned that you do filtering on the data.
Yeah.
To get a smaller subset of the data to load in. Is
Yeah.
that actual filtering, or you just mean aggregation via map?
So this is both filtering and aggregation, right? Filtering is we throw away the sessions we don't want. We throw away the attributes we don't want. Aggregation is like we're grouping, right? We're doing aggregation. We're grouping those action sequence or sessions together. So the data we get is kind of summary data or aggregated data. It's not like each single session.
Is there any interactive querying from the user to get specific data out of everything you aggregate, or basically you visualize everything that passes the filtering?
Yeah, we visualize everything past that. So, but it's a little bit old. So currently we're trying to load that 2 terabytes and support interactive query. That's, I guess, everyone's doing HBase or Elasticsearch. So that's what we are doing now. So. Thank you.
So, for example, the people who change the query or change the filter, load the visualization again, is there a way to compare them?
So yeah, so that's actually one of the most wanted features people brought up. Yes, so currently we don't not currently at that time we didn't support that. So the only we ask them to do is open 2 browsers and look at them side by side. But we didn't do that. But actually people do want that because in a lot of web companies, it's like in eBay we're doing a lot of A/B tests, right? They do want to look at compare user behavior side by side. Not even side by side is not good enough for them. They want actually like kind of merge 2 data and see the difference, right? So overlay of the data, see the difference. So that is one of the top features people want.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you. Thanks
So
everyone.
Now we have a short break until 8:45, and then please stay. We have one last talk, really interesting talk on micros and from Kidware. If you want to know a little bit about the open source tools that he's using, this is a great opportunity. I think there are drinks still outside, so you can go grab a drink. Red rooms also available outside right in front of this exit, and see you again at 8:45.